Welcome to this episode of Abide in Me, How Jesus Models Secure Attachment with God. This series is a survey of the Gospel of Mark, looking for how Jesus models what is now called secure attachment, which is the physiological, emotional, cognitive, and spiritual experience of what is often called salvation or regeneration or being conjoined with God or enlightenment, individuation, even becoming spiritual. Through the series, we will discover the benefits of becoming securely attached with God, which is the transformation of one's life into one of joy and satisfaction. We come to the next story in Mark chapter 9, which is a critical key miracle for Christians in their understanding of Jesus. Jesus singles out 3 apostles, and he takes them up on a mountain, and he gives them a spiritual experience. They have a vision, and it is powerfully affecting to them. They are completely in awe, falling down on their knees as they see Jesus, as it said, transformed, a bright white light, and seeing Moses and Elijah, the 2 greatest prophets of their tradition. For our purposes here, we're not going to examine the Christianity of this miracle, but rather we're going to look at how it describes an important milestone on our journey of developing a more secure attachment style. I'm thinking of several mountaintop moments I've had. I invite you to pause and recollect a moment, an experience that led to some revelation about yourself, a moment when you noticed something about yourself that you hadn't noticed before. I've had several of these that each revealed the same thing about myself, which is in line with the gospel stories of the apostles, requiring also so many experiences before they integrated what they learned. For me, each began with an ordeal that separated me from my ordinary life. When I was shocked, as it were, into seeing what I believed, but did not recognize that I believed, that I was unconscious of believing. Seeing and adopting different beliefs and the emotional turmoil of the entire experience was transformative. As I grew up, I learned that my world was safer, less fearful, if I insisted that I was right. Now, to be sure, I was smart and generally correct. Yet as I became an adult and my rational mind developed, this worldview had created a network of beliefs about being right that became bound up with the feeling of being safe. And so I needed to be right. Of course, as we all can predict, this led me to being arrogant and afraid, although I didn't notice those feelings, those ways of being. And it took years, well into my adulthood, and a number of shocks to actually develop a new set of beliefs that also maintained my sense of safety. And they all involved someone I felt loved me becoming angry with me. That was the ordeal. Because my worldview was that feeling anger was to not love. And so it was only weeks into my marriage when Margie got mad at me for something, as typically happens, and I actually believed that she didn't love me and that the marriage was over. Of course, she did still love me, but it took many experiences of this process over years for my view of reality to be changed. And this included the experience of others who I wanted to love me becoming angry with me and then returning to not being angry. Finally, I got to one of those it became together a mountaintop experience of seeing a different way of being. The details of the story in Mark 9 of the transfiguration of Jesus symbolically describes this process, and I recommend Swedenborg's interpretation of it for those of you who want to dig deeper into it. And then there's also George Gurdjieff's description of what he calls the fourth way that has helped me understand what's going on. The Gospel, Swedenborg, Gurdjieff, they all make the point that this is a personal experience we each can have. As much as I can describe my experience, as powerful as the gospel story is, they only point to the experience. I have to have the experience. I have to be on the way. The lesson Jesus is offering is that our minds really do have power in the very structure of our minds, so that every idea we have, and even the unconscious drives, prop up that strength, that reality, that view, that way of being. So we collect ideas. We are meaning-making machines, and those beliefs, those meanings, begin to stand for our reality. That's it. They are what we see to be real. To challenge a belief is thus to challenge my very being, my survival, and even my ego. It requires transformative experiences for us to hear the message. We are not to hold on to those so-called truths because they are not the reality. And indeed, some of those beliefs cause us or others to suffer. Now, we need not avoid or bury emotions to protect ourselves, for instance. We need not be hard-hearted to be strong. And when we feel our lives are threatened, there is this transformative way, the fourth way. So, for instance, one way is to strive to do everything right, thinking that if we just do it right every time, our world will be safe. Of course, that doesn't happen. Another way, a second way to avoid, is to avoid or deny all sensual earthly attractions, thinking that this will make us holy or special or separated. Of course, that doesn't work. And a third way is to learn all the truth, thinking that if we know enough, we will be enlightened. And again, that doesn't happen. The fourth way is simply to be human. This is the hardest way. It is to let go of all our judgments, our rightness, our assurance, because those are simply things we have. They are not who we are. And instead, cultivate curiosity, be observant, and be present. So watching for those moments when the glory shows up and put us on our knees and raise us up into strength and balance and insight given by our higher power, the divine, the source, life flowing in. As the voice instructed the apostles in the story, whether for you that voice is Jesus or the divine or the universe, the source, in that moment, our opportunity is to listen to that voice rather than the usual typical voice of fear or arrogance or your defensive reactions to what appears to be an attack on your worldview. Indeed, that's what we're facing, the death of a worldview. We are being asked to loosen our grip on what we hold as true, as if having that truth is the foundation of our life, when in fact it is love that is the foundation of our life. We are being offered a covenant, a relationship that, in my personal experience, means that I must give at least equal weight to the truths of others, to the voice of others. It means that I am connected to all living things, and I can cultivate, by curiosity and observation, a real experience of that connection. And it is to see that we each will give to others from our abundance what they need, and that flow happens all the time if I will observe it and let go of my sense of scarcity. And we will be able to then realize that the frame of our worldview and the predictions that we make based on that frame are not sufficient to save us or to bring us into heavenly joy or to connect us to those we love, to give us peace, satisfaction, joy. Now, it's no wonder that the three apostles, when they saw this vision, were very afraid. They must have felt very vulnerable, but also in awe. The trust they had developed over the years, the safety they must have felt being in Jesus' presence, must have been a necessary preparation for them to see this vision and get the message. I know that I was not so trusting or safe in the beginning, and it took me years and many experiences for me to learn the lesson. I get why those three men tried to control the situation, as if you read in the story. There's a part of us that experiences an existential threat when a bright light of love and goodness shines in our minds and reveals another reality, asking us to let go of our truth, of our solipsistic worldview that only sees ourselves and what we need and is very individualistic. And again, I was seeking that because I connected that with feeling safe and moderating fear. And it was required a transformation for me to let go of that view. I know now that our world is actually made safe when we have this secure connection with our God, who is for us the real and the symbolic source of love and wisdom and life. Our world is authentic when all of our parts are in balance and harmony. And our world is joyful when we experience secure attachments in all our relationships. For then, we will have an active experience of our self-worth. We will have unconditional regard for others' worth, and so have healthy, strong relationships with more and more people. We will know when to speak up and when to remain quiet. We will be looking for the goodness. We will have an affirmative view of the world and affirming of all people's experiences. Right? That is the promise of having gone through the ordeal and come to a mountaintop experience. I pray this has supported your transformative life, whatever practice you have in your life. I want to thank Solomon Keel for his music, and I want to invite you to make a contribution to this work if you wish and are able through the PayPal link. And I invite you to continue to listen to the next episode. You be well.